Hey folks, welcome back. Greg Sharp. Clap. Dramatic. Glasses taken off. Throw it down. As you probably remember, on Wednesday, I told Anthony I'm leaving no more of those frequent flyer bitch miles paper that I have to read off of. I want to have a teleprompter card so I don't have to look down and look foolish. But because we taped 3 videos on the same day, folks, you know, progress is slow in the world of entertainment. So I'm going to cheat one more time and say, hey, welcome to Inside Arm Wrestling, the overall news on arm wrestling, strength sports, and fitness competitions. Friday, September 27th. This is airing in the morning. Anthony, make sure we are going to premiere at 10 a.m. because today, September 28th, is the first day of weigh-ins for Bike Week here. Harley Davidson Bike Week in San Diego. We will be there, World Series of Arm Wrestling, with a fun but competitive event. Anytime you're giving away $1,000, that's competitive. But it also a fun event to kind of segue us into a real large crowd of people that are coming through. I think they're looking at about somewhere between 7,000 to 10,000 people coming through Harley Davidson this weekend, and we being one of the events there, hopefully are going to garner quite a few new supporters and fans of the sport. You know, put ourselves out there, get people talking about arm wrestling, and really just having a great time with people in general. We are going to have the Marine Corps down there as well, which is always a big exciting thing for me. Yes, being a proud father of a son in the Marine Corps makes it that much special and more enjoyable for me. But anytime I've ever had a chance of working with the military on any level, it's been a great experience. And we are super excited. Friday, it is 10 a.m. So remember, you can weigh in between 5 and 8 tonight at San Diego Harley Davidson. And then tomorrow morning from 9 to noon, you can be at the Harley Davidson. Get there early, folks. They've got, oh man, I want to say a battle of the bands during the day. They've got the Senders Smoke Show. The Senders are this bike group that does crazy events and, you know, lights up parking lots and stuff like that. That's on tap for Saturday. Tremendous amount of food to eat, people to just have a great time with. We're looking for an amazing event. Madman Dan down there and Noel put together a great spread when it comes to sponsors and stuff. So super excited. It is Friday, but it is Friday, and I want to really talk about a couple of topics in the world of arm wrestling that over the summer we kind of saw rear its head. And I want to kind of express it more on a business end than anything else. And I think that the calling card of it is really contracts in sports. And when I first started to watch this, and I'm not someone to engage on social media, it's not my place, it's not my time. And quite honestly, I think when you start to engage in a way that's counterproductive, and maybe not fact-based in many instances, it creates a lot of controversy. And I think that turmoil in a sport that's growing is not always the best way to navigate a sea. Obviously, if you're any kind of a nautic person, it's always easier to navigate a calm sea than it is a rough sea. Certainly, you don't ever want to find yourself in the doldrums because then you're not going anywhere. But ultimately, I think that what you hear in terms of a calling point is there's so many people out there that want to say that they are for the sport. And I think that there's levels of truth to that. But they oftentimes, when people are looking at the controversy of decisions, they forget that there is a mitigating factor that comes to the table, and that's money and business. Business is predicated on making money, and making money is ultimately the calling card to be able to do bigger and better things. So we got ourselves into a bit of a social media conversation over the summer, towards the late summer, on East versus West contracts, WAF, and I don't know that any of it was really founded on any solid information, albeit that there were some contract stipulations that came up that unfortunately took an event super match away from the Knuckles Up guys out in New Jersey. That in turn created this bit of media roar that ultimately, when you come down to it, ultimately, put a lot of people on their heels, and kind of maybe soured the water for some of the guys that are competing around the country, because it left them a little bit in limbo. Who do I support? Who do I not support? Where is the ultimate value of U.S. arm wrestling versus world arm wrestling? We saw Simon, I think Simon's last name, the way I pronounce it, Barakoa, he posted a few different comment pages on his feelings with WAF and the value of WAF. We saw Engen post similar stuff. We saw IFA and USAA post their sides of the story. But I think ultimately, folks, for me as a businessman, it comes down to a couple easy things. Number one, it's a business. And as we continue to grow in anything that we do, and World Series being, the growth factor that we've had, we are looking at moving into a series, which is a reality series called The House here in the early spring. We are looking at our Thursday Night Arm Fights, our Super Series that's going to happen on a monthly, if not weekly, eventual basis on Thursday nights. So when we look at all of these factors, the reality is that contracts are some of the things that go into play that help protect the assets of anyone's hard work. And when you look at some of these athletes that are in contracts, it's not because these athletes are making millions of dollars. It's because the athletes understand that they have a home in which they are able to compete on a consistent basis to be able to get to where they really want to be. And in this case, the conversation, it's about Georgie becoming a world champion, right? I mean, that's what it really came down to, and him making the choice not to pull with the Knuckles Up guys, and only pull on the King of the Cage, East versus West, with a WAF sponsored event. Having said that, at the end of the day, contracts protect your assets, right? I mean, a lock makes an honest person honest. And if they're spending money to grow these athletes in a way that they are expecting them to return on a competitive end, they're going to want to protect their assets. And listen, without calling anybody out or making waves, I could tell you season one of World Series of Arm Wrestling, we had no less than 6 guys who were going to compete with us during the summer tell us that they couldn't because they were under a contract to compete with someone else. And the part of that contract was that they could not compete anywhere else within 30 days of the other event. Fair enough. You know what? At the end of the day, it happens. They made the choice. They were not with us in the finals. And you know what? They were with us the following year, which is great. So when I look at this, I say everyone has a choice, and their choice is really, your personal levels to whether or not you want to adhere to a contract agreement sport, whether you want to contract with a very specific organization or remain as a free agent. If you want to find yourself in a position where you are able to find yourself asked in the future, sometimes you have to play within the rules, even if you're not within that ultimate pool of contestants right now. So I think that a lot of guys are making choices out there when it comes to arm wrestling and where they really want to be and where they want to go. Now, my sentiments are really echoing always the same. I like to say that I'm a non-denominational arm wrestling organization, meaning that I don't mind who comes and pulls. I'm there for everyone to be able to compete in a fair and competitive manner. But I do know that some athletes will make choices along the way to compete with us or not. In the end, I'm hoping that the money that I put up there and the exposure that athletes get with us is enough for them to think about their future on a U.S. level versus maybe an international level to stay competitive with us, as well as to work out the details with the counterparts overseas or within any other organization. But at the end of the day, folks, if you sign a contract, you're going to live up to that contract, and that's what makes the integrity and the ethics of a person, valuable. When I look at athletes and they come to me and I give them a opportunity to, whether or not be part of the show or to be able to pull or compete at the finals, it's a very easy stipulation. Show up at the regionals. If you show up at our regionals and we've made a commitment for you to do a backstory on you, we're going to do a backstory. If you choose not to, you choose not to. We know right then that your choice. Come to the finals. If you want to win money, that's where you're going to get it. We want you to come. We want you to enjoy our finals, our hospitality, our event. We want you to win. In 2025, we think that we'll have our first $10,000 plus prize money winner out there. And I think by growing the sport in the way we're doing it, we're trying to continue to give people options. However, I'll be honest with you folks. In the future, we will look at opportunities, especially with athletes that make commitments to us, when we have the ability to make commitments back to them, to put them under agreements that will help bolster us as an organization in order for us to give our viewers and our organization the best chance for success, with the open heart and the open arms of being able to make decisions to allow our athletes to pull in events that also help their careers, help them financially, and help support the sport itself. That's our position. But ultimately, when it comes right down to it, contracts are really a thing that's needed in sports. And if you're going to fight the contracts, the answer really is put more money on the table, create a better product, give the viewer or the athlete something to continue to rally around you, and give that athlete something that would make them want to be consistent to you versus be consistent to someone else. And I think that that will solve the equation of the sport, because ultimately, as we're growing, folks, there can be very little left to imagine that any successful sport has to have a contract, has to have athletes that are contracted, have to have athletes that are staying consistent. You look at football, basketball, you look at, I'm sorry, folks, I got a little bit of a nose issue there. No, I don't have a habit. And no, I'm not, I'm not saying that I don't have a habit. I just have a damn itchy nose. But if you look at the major sports, football, basketball, baseball, you start to get into the worlds of tennis. You look at worlds of golf. You look at, starting to look at niche sports. You look at wrestling. You look at Olympic sports. All of these sports have organizations that control the athlete's ability to compete so that they're competing within a consistent manner, and they're keeping their biggest asset, their people, safe. Now, I'll give you another example of why that makes a lot of sense. Back when I owned Explode Fight Series back in the 2010 to 2016, the military put a moratorium on athletes competing in combat sports. I want you guys to understand, here is one of the biggest organizations in the world, the United States military, came to all the branches of the military and said, we are putting a moratorium on mixed martial arts, on combat sports. If you are not competing within the military boxing program, you are not allowed to compete outside of that in an amateur or professional manner without a waiver from the base. And I could tell you during that time, there weren't a lot of waivers going out of the base. A lot of the military had to put on hiatus their fighting careers for the simple reason they were an asset. And the United States military didn't want their asset to go out and get hurt, come back, and then not be able to go to work. On the same vein, when you look at some of these contracts out there, the reason why you see professional athletes, let's say baseball, not playing in multiple leagues across the world is because the teams that pay them don't want those athletes to get injured in the off seasons or ridiculous enough to say to be able to compete somewhere else during the season, and know that their asset, the thing that they've invested their money in, could potentially be damaged or ruined with the negligence from somebody else's part, or with an oversight for safety, or just the fact that they had bad luck. And now that athlete is no longer an asset to that company. So my personal opinion is not against at all what WAF or East versus West or King of the Table or any organization out there is doing. Certainly when it comes to the sandbox, he who has all the sandbox tools controls the sandbox. And ultimately, if you want to pull on the world stage, in a super match value, there's only one way to do that right now, and that's East versus West, or King of the Table. So I don't think it's really a point to argue or debate. It is what it is. The best thing that we could do as businesses out there, as I always say, is make your business unique, make it marketable, and make it something that people want to enjoy and people want to compete with you on, and you'll be fine. Ultimately, there's enough of the pie out there that this sport is going to continue to grow, and as it grows, we're going to see more and more opportunities out there, which we're already seeing, which is great. Now, having said all that, folks, the house is coming up soon, so guess what? We're going to have some agreements when it comes to the house. Why? Because we got to protect our assets. So when you guys hear that there's some contracts going out there for the house and for other things that we're doing, don't get your hair in a tizzy. I'll come on different podcasts and explain our value to you so that way you can see it. But I think that it's important to say that the value of growth always comes with the protection of asset on a business end. And you can never fault someone for protecting their assets, especially when they've invested quite a bit of money into the success of their program, as well as the success of the overall sports. So, having said all that, we have the house coming up. We've got the Super Series Thursday Night Arm Fights. We're super excited on that. And ultimately, guys, we've got Season 4 coming out in 2025, where we believe that one person, between winning their weight class and winning the overall, will walk away with over $10,000 in 2025. Folks, where in the United States are you going to find a prize package that deep in terms of money that you can walk away with that kind of money for competing on a tournament-style basis? I can't think of anyone, and I can't think of anyone at all. So we're going to keep doing us. You guys keep doing you. Inside Arm Wrestling is going to find themselves on a new platform in 20. I like that. I got that off great. Anthony, can you please edit it? A new platform. That finger went with new. Everything was timed right. Make sure when you put the audio track in, we've got a consistency there. Don't make my mouth move and then new come out afterwards, that little tape delay. But we've got a new platform we're coming out. We're going to be doing some live Inside Arm Wrestling, having guests on. We're going to have this into a weekly format for you guys. More to come on that, as well as our pay-per-view and live streaming series coming out inside, Thursday Night Arm Fight Super Series will come out in 2025. Lots of great things. Jody Williams versus Jamie Sheldon in the house. Who will take the $10,000 prize for their team? Who will be the winner takes all? You're going to have to tune in to see it. Folks, this has been Greg Sharp. Again, next week, I will have a cue card right there to my left. So as I look, I'm going to go like this, and then you'll be seeing that I'll be reading it. But until then, I'll go down here to the bottom. It's been another great episode. September 27th, make sure you're at weigh-ins tonight, 5 to 8. Harley Davidson down on Marino Boulevard. Our events tomorrow. We are going to be trying to live stream it, so make sure that you're watching. So, it does it for another Inside Arm Wrestling Report. This has been Greg Sharp reminding you to train hard, pull smart, and Anthony, for goddamn sake, get us some cue cards. Live safe, folks. That's another one. That's a wrap. We'll see you next week. Folks, if you like these stories and you want to see more, please hit the like button and subscribe to our page. Also, hit the notification bell underneath the video so that way you're notified every time a new video comes out. And if you're on social media, specifically Instagram, go to the World Series of Arm Wrestling Instagram page. Please follow it. We'll try to follow you back, but it'll keep you up to date with all of the news and events in the world of arm wrestling.